Hello, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Today, we're going to go ahead and model the toilet as a part of our Every Vote Counts 3D poster design in Blender. All right, so check out DesignCourse.com if you haven't yet, and subscribe here on YouTube. All right, let's get started. All right, so if you've never used Blender before and you're going to attempt to do this tutorial, I'm going to try to go as slow as I can, although trying not to be tedious in describing every tiny little detail, but I do have the screencast keys on so you can see what I'm typing and clicking. But basically, to select objects, you right-click them. To move around in a viewport. Sorry, I was looking at this. This is the first time I used the screencast keys, so I was looking at that. Yeah, to move around, you just hold your middle or third mouse button. To zoom up, you use your scroll wheel, and to pan, you hold Shift and you use that middle or third mouse button, which doesn't show up on here. All right, so I'm going to go to File, New, Reload Startup File, so we're looking at the same thing. That's the only introduction I'm going to give to the interface. Probably a better idea to follow a more simple tutorial before beginning this anyhow, now that I think about it. But so the first thing we're going to create, of course, is the toilet. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the first part of the toilet we're going to start with, and what is that basic shape? So I want to start with a seat, and that's obviously more of like an oval. So I'm going to delete the cube, hitting delete, and then enter. So now what I want to do is add an object. So to add, you can go to add over here, or just what I'm going to do is hit Shift A, and let me hit that again. There we go. My screencast keys went away. What the hell is that? So Shift A, and we want to add circle. All right. So I'm just going to drag it up here a little bit, and let's imagine that this is the toilet seat. So a normal toilet seat usually is not like a perfect circle. It's more like a oval. So what we want to do is kind of just scale this in. So what we can do is hit S, and that'll allow us to scale it. And we want to scale it on the X-axis, on that red line right here. So we hit X. And so it's not like this, of course, unless you have a weird ass. You can make a custom toilet seat. It's more something like this, right around here. You just eyeball it, and that'd be fine. I also want to scale it down just a little bit, right around there. All right. And so now what I want to do is go into edit mode. So we're in object mode. Object mode allows you to scale things, rotate them, move them around. The object mode you can access down here by going to edit, or we can just hit tab and we'll toggle between object and edit mode. Edit mode, it has three different ways to interact with the mesh object. That is through vertex mode, which is what we're at by default. We have side or edge. We can right click to click on any of these, and then also face, and there's not currently a face on here anyhow. So let's go back to vertex mode. What we want to do is extrude all of this down. All right, so to select all, you hit A, and to deselect all, hit A again. So it toggles between both of those. So hit A, and then hit E to extrude. And now you can see we can move around however we want, but we want us to go just straight up and down, so we're going to hit the ZZ key. And I'd say maybe right around there looks pretty decent. All right. So now I'm going to select this top edge right around here, the one that we extruded from. And so instead of just selecting all of these and holding Shift, which would take for freaking ever, there's a shortcut. You just right click, hit Alt, and right click, and that will select the edge loop right there. So now what we want to do, I'm going to hit 7 on the number pad, and that gives us to the top orthographic view. And what we want to do is extrude this, hit E, and what we want to do is just hit enter, oops, E, and then enter, and then hit S. And we're going to scale this down roughly to the size of a toilet seat, right around there, and just left click to set it, and then hit E again, and then hit Z because we want to go straight down. Right around there is fine. and I'm just going to leave it right there for now. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the bottom row. So you just right click, hold Alt right click, and it selects it. And what we want to do is separate this or duplicate it. So hit Shift and D, and then hit Z to make sure it only moves on the Z axis. And we're going to create the actual part that the seat sits on. And we're just going to put it pretty close to it, right around there will work. And then hit P, and that will allow you to separate this selection by left clicking and selecting it. And so now this is no longer, this ring right here is no longer a part of this seat. So they're two separate objects. So we have to go back into object mode, hit tab, and then right click this. And now we can go and hit tab, and now we can just edit this portion and no longer the seat. All right, so now what we want to do is hit A to select all, because it's just this edge loop right here. And we want to create the base from which your matter falls into. So E and Z. And let me hit, I'm going to back up real quick, just because this is a good point to go ahead and kind of just maybe go to Google Images and quickly just get an idea of what a toilet looks like. So we don't have to be perfect, of course, but let me just, I'm off screen right now. I'm going to get this up real quick. And so, toilet seat, let me drag this into view. Not toilet seat, but toilet rather. Hopefully I won't get any nasty images. So yeah, the general look I'm going for, this is obviously a 3D model. It's probably, I'm going to be going for something that's more along the lines of this shape. I mean, it's just a general recognizable shape right here as well. You have like this bowl portion and then a portion that comes down and it connects up to here to this square rectangular piece, and that's that. So people pretty much, you know, it'll look pretty realistic, but it's not going to be 100% in terms of having all this stuff in here, like this tube. I don't want to spend all the time doing that, but yeah, pretty simple. So what we're going to do is hit E and then hit Z. And I'm going to bring this down roughly right around there. All right. And actually, I may want to bring this up just right around there, and then hit E again to extrude, and then Z. And this time we'll come down roughly right around here. All right. Now this portion right here, we want this to start coming in, but only on the front. So if we go to the side view, we'll hit 3 on the number pad to get there. This is looking at it from the right view. And so this portion needs to basically come down this way. And actually, I may drop this down just a little bit further. All right, so what we want to do, I want to hit A to deselect all. And we want to turn on this button right here. Because let me show you what happens. If I leave it just as it is, by default, it's not on. If we just hit, for example, B will allow you to, it's kind of like a selection tool, like the lasso tool almost in Photoshop. And you left click and drag and you select some of these, it's only going to select the visible vertexes. So let's go back to 3, hit A again to deselect all. With this turned on, B, now it selects everything behind the visible portion. All right, so I was going to go a certain direction with just trying to move these around and pushing these in, but I decided that I'm going to select all of them at the bottom. So just hit B. So you have them all selected. And what we want to do is, let's go back to 3. You hit scale. Oh, it's kind of funky to work with a little bit here. Just go to top view. If you hit scale, and 7 on the number pad is top, and you scale this in roughly right around there. All right, that's pretty decent. And then let's go to the side view, 3 on the number pad, and then bring this right over so this is basically straight up and down on the left portion. All right. And that may be a little bit too much in terms of where it's going. So if you want to make an adjustment, you just go back to 7, hit S a little bit, go back to 3 on the number pad, and then just drag this over, and that's a little bit better. Okay. And then what we want to do is extrude it again. So let's go back to 3, hit E, and hit Z. Make sure it's going to stay on the Z axis. I'm just going to come down right around here. We're going to assume this is the floor. And then we're going to hit E again. And then I'm just going to hit Enter to make it set there. And hit 7 on the top view. Hit S to scale it just a little bit. And then let's see how this looks. Hit 3. And then hit E to extrude, and then Z, so it stays on that Z axis. All right. Okay, so now what I want to do in terms of the shape, usually there's kind of like a portion where this right here goes inwards on the back. So let me just bring back the toilet Google Images thing. Let's see, toilet. All right, so what I'm talking about is, you know, this portion right here, kind of how there's like an indent. It's even right here. It's much more simplistic. This is likely more of what we're going to go after. So the way we'll do that is, let's go ahead and hit 3 on the side. Hit A to deselect all. And we just want to select the faces. So let's go over here. All right, so remember, we have this turned on. So if we hit B, for instance, and then just left click and select, we'll get the one that's over here as well. So we want to select, let's go back to 3, probably these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all we have to do is hit B, select all those, hit 7 for the top view, and then hit S to scale it in a little bit like that. Just like that. And I think that's fine. Just right around there. All right. So now we have the seat and we have the base portion done. I don't know what the technical terminology of that is, but now we're going to work on the rest of it. And basically, this portion right here of the toilet usually has a part that just kind of, it connects to an outer portion. So let me hit 7. So they'll come out, I'd say probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces out this way, and then the base or the top portion will sit up here. So what we want to do is, if you hit 1, that gives you the front view as shown up here, but if you hit Control 1, it'll give you the back view. So now we're looking at the back of this thing, and this is the center. So I think we're going to choose, 3 on each side. So just going to right click to select this. And sometimes if you right click, it may not select it like that right there. It ended up selecting one from the front. So that's something just to be wary of when you're doing this. Oops, Control 1. And so the way you can temporarily just turn this off. That way you'll select these, holding Shift. There we go. We have 3 on each side. So now we can hit 7 for the top view, and we can hit E, and then just drag out, and by default it's already set at the Y-axis for making sure it stays there. All right, and yeah, we could probably take these edges right here and adjust those so it's not a sharp angle. So what we can do is move here to edge mode, right click those, make sure you have 6 of them, and then we can go to side view and just drag this down or over to the right and then down a little bit. All right. So far, so good. Is this top part out enough? I don't think so. So let's hit 7. And let's go to... Let's turn this on as well, just so we can see what's behind it. We only want to select these 6, so hit A and then B. And it's going to select, unfortunately, a few of those down there. So I'm just holding Shift and right-clicking to deselect those. All right, so now let's go back to 7 on the number pad and drag this out. And this probably, it's a minor detail, so I'm not going to worry about it. You could just take each of these and make this a straight line, each of these, but I'm not going to worry about it. That looks decent for now. All right, so I may actually drag it out a little bit more. Damn it. All right, there we go. All right, so what we want to do now is the base, and so that's going to be a separate object. So whenever you go, say for example, if we added an object right now and hit Shift A, that would end up adding the object to this current object right here because we're in edit mode. So tabbing into object mode and then adding a new object will add a new object and won't be connected to any other objects. Just a tip there. So wherever you add a new object is dependent upon where the origin point is right here, this little thing, this circle crosshair thing. And I never, the way you set it is just by left clicking. I never moved it from the original point from the tutorial, but wherever that's clicked on is where the next object is going to get added. It's not a huge deal because you can always move the object if it's not where you want it. But just a quick tip, if you hit 3, and we want to have it sitting right around here, left click right here, then hit 1, and it still is in the current Y position, so we don't really have to move it. Because sometimes if you hit 3 over here, it looks like it's in line, but then you hit 1 and it's like hanging off over here or something. All right, so now we can go ahead and hit Shift A, and we're going to add a cube. We're going to hit S to scale this down, roughly right around there. And then we're going to hit 7 on the number pad, and we're going to hit S and then X. And we want this to come out roughly to the same width as the seat, which it looks like it is. All right, so now let's hit 1. Obviously, it needs to be much taller than this. So I'm going to move it up here and then hit S and Z. And move it down. Now let's go and hit 3. Move it down. All right, that looks pretty accurate. Yeah. And then what I want to do, there's usually a portion that sits up on top, you know, the thing that you can take off and then try to fix your toilet. So if we go into tab mode, or not tab mode, but edit mode, hitting tab, we can select this top face right here real quick and Shift D and hit Z, then hit P by selection. We're going to separate it. Hit tab to go to object mode, right click it, and then hit tab to go back, and then hit A to select all, and then hit E to move it up. And it's not very thick usually, it's about this tall. And there we go. All right, we are almost done with this portion. All right, now I want to add real quickly a handle, and so a flusher thing or whatever the hell it's called. So if we want to get this in a correct position, we can hit 1 on the number pad, left click, hit 3, and that looks like it's pretty much where we're going to want it. Hit Shift A, make sure you're not in edit mode because it will add it to this object, so hit tab to go to object mode first. Shift A, and we're going to make it a, what's it called? A cylinder. S to scale that thing down, and then usually if it's a big object you're trying to scale down, you can only get it down to a certain point, otherwise it makes it hard. So just left click once you get it down to a smaller size and then hit S again, and it makes it easier to get down. All right. And then RX90. So R is rotate, X will mean it's only going to rotate on the X axis, and then 90 is 90 degrees, and that makes it facing the butt portion, us. All right, so I'm going to also hit 3. Now, when you hit 3, it gives you the right, but what if you want the left? Okay, well, hit Control 3. And that's the same thing for front and back. So if you hit 1, that's front. Control 1 is back. 7 is top. Control 1 is bottom. Just a quick tip. So I'm going to go back to Control 3. And we have to see how thick this thing is. So if you move it over, that's a little... let's see what this thing looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit too thick. So what we'll do is hit S and Y. Right around there is pretty decent. Hit Control 3. Move it just against that portion right there. And then we have to get in here real close. Hit 1. And then we'll switch into edit mode, hitting tab. And I'm going to hit A. Make sure this is turned on, by the way. Hit B. And then select just the left half of it. Move it over. Usually they hang off the side a little bit, and then hit S to scale this thing in. So I'm going to see what that looks like. Pretty good. All right. Okay. All right, so that's it for the actual toilet, for the modeling portion at least. This is going to have to be closer, I think. So what we want to do is now add a subdivision surface to these various objects. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 different objects here. So what we want to do, I'm going to select, just right click and select the seat. And I'm going to come out here. Oh, by the way, this properties is showing up. Just hit N for nose if you want that to collapse. You probably didn't have it. I did because for that thing down here. So what we want to do is click on modifiers, and you can add all these crazy things. Subdivision surface is what we want, because right now it looks like a big blocky weird looking thing, right? So subdivision surface basically takes the geometry and just multiplies it however you specify and makes it smooth. So for the view, I'm going to hit 3, render 3 as well. You can see it kind of just smoothed out, and we want shading to be smooth as well. All right, so you'll see when we do this one, it's going to really make it look crazy. So what we'll do, add modifier to this one as well, subdivision. All right, so it kind of just makes things that look a little bit strange and gooey, and we can fix this, of course. Right click, do the same thing, and this one is going to really make it look crazy. And then the same thing up here, subdivision surface, turn that up 3 on each side. There we go. All right, so let's fix this a little bit. This seat actually doesn't look too bad. I don't think we have to make any fixes, because this is usually the seats aren't like straight edges. Otherwise, your legs and your ass would be all killing and stuff, bit marks on them. But this one, we can probably make some adjustments to. So with it selected, hit tab, and we can see our geometry is still intact. It hasn't been manipulated yet. If you were to hit apply, then this would go away and you wouldn't be able to work with it really. So what we have to do is add in some extra edge loops, as they're called. So Control R or Command R in Mac will give you that ability. And wherever you're hovering at is wherever it's going to add these things. So it gets a little confusing, but we want to add one up here. So just hover on one of these vertical edges right here, left click, and then pull it up. We'll do it again, Control R, left click, and pull it down. Control R, left click and pull it up. Control R again right around there. Pull this down. Control R right here. Pull this up. And Control R down here. We'll pull this up. Control R over here. Pull that down. All right, so now if we switch back out, it's a little bit more defined in terms of the shape. All right, so let's click on this mess right here. We'll go to tab to go to edit mode, Now we just have to add some over here. So Control R, bring this up all the way. Control R, bring this down all the way. Control R right here to bring this forward. Control R, bring that back. And there we go, much better looking. Hit Tab to get out of there. Control R, right click it to select it, hit Tab. And we'll do the same thing right here real quick. Control R. Control R. Control R up here. Control R down here. All right, so it's hit Tab, right click this one, and hit Tab again to go to Edit. Control R, bring this up. Usually these are kind of rounded. They're not like, I know up here these are straight flat edges, so you can bring that all the way. You can bring that up pretty much. I'm going to edit undo that. Control R, and just pull all the way up, make sure it's there. All right. So now, if we go into object mode, you can see what this looks like. All right. I'm going to say that's pretty good for now. So what we want to do is I'm going to add a floor. And so I'm going to put the origin point just somewhere underneath it. So if you hit 1, you can click just beneath this. 3, well, it doesn't really matter on 3. Shift A, we're in object mode. Hit plane. Hit S, like, I don't know, 40. Make it like really large. All right. And then I'm going to make some adjustments here just to the scene, just to get this working here. I'm going to change to Blender Cycles Render up here. And the color of the world, first let me switch to the render mode. For the device, its default is CPU. I'm going to change to GPU Compute. If you don't have that option, you can go to File, and you can go to User Preferences. You can go to System, and then down here, if you have a graphics card, you'll see it by default. Compute device is set to none, I believe. If you click on CUDA, you can see your graphics cards down here. I have 2 GeForce GTX 580, so that's what mine's set at. Once you have that set, then you'll see this option down here for GPU Compute. It's much faster than CPU when it comes to rendering. All right, so I'm going to come down here to Samples. By default, we have 10. This is what this looks like at 10 samples. And also with this default dark gray color. If you come over here, we're on solid view currently. Change to rendered. All right, so everything's dark and it looks grainy, right? So let's lighten things up and let's go back to render and let's change the samples. See, 10 is very minimal. That's why it looks grainy. So you have two options, two settings rather. Render is when we actually go up here to click on render, which we're not going to do for a while. And then preview is what we're previewing right here. So let's set that to 100. It's working up here all the way to 100, and now it looks a lot better and less grainy, okay? All right. What's that? I don't think this is filled in, this edge right here. Let me go fix that. So you can see, like, usually there's a part that comes here for that the seat sits on. So let's go back to solid, and I'm going to right click this to select it. Go into edit mode by hitting tab. And I'm going to make sure I select this outer ring right here. So we're on, let's go to vertex mode, Alt, left click, hit 7 for on the number pad for the top view, hit E to extrude. Actually, 1 second. Hit E to extrude, left click or enter to set it, hit S to scale in. Roughly, I'd say right around there. All right, and then hit 3 on the side, hit E, enter, and then we'll have it come down. And maybe come down like this a little bit. Like that. All right, so now if we switch back to rendered view, we don't have that issue. All right, we're already at 30 minutes, so I'm going to consider this complete. We don't have a material, so it's not glossy or anything, But I think that's a good place to end it just for now. Well, because I am like a little bit OCD, I want to bring up this. Let me go to object mode, take our plane, right click on it, hit 3, and move this thing up so that's sitting on it. There. You can go back to rendered and much better. All right. That is our toilet. Awesome stuff. Okay, so in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and get focused on doing the voting box part that's going to sit on top of it, which will be tomorrow. All right. Check out designcourse.com if you haven't yet, and subscribe here on YouTube. All right, goodbye.